Hello, I'm L Ranger. Today we'll be starting a series of consisting of three parts of like common practices and misconceptions of the Godot engine. And we'll be covering three aspects. The first aspect is collision detection, the second aspect is movement, and the third aspect is actually programming practice. So today we'll be talking about collision detections, like some small techniques and some setups that I use in my collision detections. So let's start. So first, I think most of you know that a character body 2D or rigid body 2D must have physics physics hitbox for it, which is like player collision shape or like collision shape 2D whatever. Usually, I only use this for physics detection, like only for the physics, and let the Godot engine handle everything else. I do not use it for any logical detection, like entering a certain areas, picking up a certain object, or maybe moving towards a door. I do not use this collision shape at all. Instead, I use my own area 2Ds for this because mainly I use the collision shape for physics related stuff, and I do not modify it or touch it um, for the rest of the code. Instead, I use individual area 2Ds for this. And then most of the time you have to mingle with area 2D's collision layer and mask. Layer is is what the object actually is, like the layer that the object is. So perhaps this object is in no layers. That means nobody can detect this layer. Nobody can detect this object. And then mask is actually what this area can detect. Like it detects other by mask, and it can be detected by others by layers. Layers is itself, and mask is listening to others. And then you may also want to change these two. Monitoring means that it's listening to others, and monitorable means that it can be listened to by others. So that's how I set up my area 2Ds and my physics collision like rigid bodies. And then the topic I would like to discuss is actually how do we detect whether the object is actually what we wanted. Of course, we can use layers and masks to achieve this, but what if I really want to detect a specific group or like a specific type of objects that I'm colliding with? Then I decide my logic based on it. Then you would have two options to choose from. Uh, but first, I would like to say that using dot name is not good practice because a dot name can be inconsistent, and also you might not name every single thing with the same name. Like for example, you may want to give different names to your enemies. Let's say there's a goblin, there's a slime, and there's a bird. So checking for the name is not that efficient. And also, like when you instantiate multiple items in the scene, the one apart from the first one will get different names, which is also risky if you use name as a reference, like to detect whether that object is the object you wanted. So to avoid using name, you have two options to choose from. The first one is actually the more Godot way, which is called groups. Groups is like a label that you can stick onto objects. For example, this node you can see here is labeled as ledge object groups, which means it is labeled as ledge object groups. You can have your own self-defined labels as well, such as enemies, treasure chests, or players, you just have to stick a label through here, like plus add a new group, and then you assign the group to it. Then you will have a group attached to it, like a label attached to it. Then how to detect this label? It's actually very easy. Once you get the object reference of this one, you just check it's in group, ledge object groups. Then you can easily check that it's actually a ledge object. Same goes for enemies, for players, and for whatever. You can simply check is in group and then the group name, and then you will know this is the object I wanted or this is not the object I wanted. So you can skip the name part. You can avoid checking for names. The second option is actually to check for the class. It is basically the same as like checking if area is node 2D. Yeah, it's basically the same, but this time you self-define your own class and then you check it. You'll have to declare your own class name for this, but yeah, that's basically the two ways of detecting whether an object is what you wanted or not. Groups also has another added benefit of being labeled, which means you can call all enemies kill free or all enemies resurrect or all treasure chests open up themselves. This is another added benefit of groups. So in general, I will recommend groups over classes, but classes also have static functions that calls themselves and initiates themselves, but I generally recommend group because it's more convenient and it's easier to manage, and it's the more Godotic way, I'd say. Yes, so we've covered how to set up collisions, how to set up Area2Ds, what is collision mask and layers, and then we've talked about how to detect whether the object is really what we wanted. And the last topic I would like to discuss is that how to detect an object entered, like is colliding or is exited. As you know, Godot signals only give you a one-off signal when the area is entered or exited. If you want to check what objects are currently colliding with the hitbox, you have two options. The first option, you can check the docs. There is indeed a way to check for like current detections, current collisions in Godot, but that's computational heavy and not recommended. So another way is actually to record what has entered, the Area2D, like make an array or make a list, store down all the node 2Ds that has come in contact with the Area2D, and then when it exits, remove that reference. That's the more correct way of doing so, instead of like each frame pinging for information whether there's any collided objects, because that's computational heavy. The correct way, I repeat again, is to check for on enter, you add it to an array, and then you use the array for your own coding uses, and then if it exits, then remove from the array. Then you can avoid pinging the system, pinging the collider to check whether an object is colliding right now. And that's all I would like to share about collision detections in Godot. In the next video, I will talk about movements like lerping, velocity, position changing, and also all kinds of stuff like ground snapping and slopes and that kind of things. Yeah, the next video I'll talk about movement. So if you're interested in this tutorial series, subscribe and stay tuned. Thank you.